Hello, welcome to the Stupid Show, episode 2. Somehow we did manage to get through episode 1 last night, and we are here webcasting live from the floor of the UN Climate Summit in Copenhagen, Denmark, otherwise known as COP15, otherwise known as the most important meeting in human history, because all of our futures are being decided here this week, which is why we've come here to try and help you understand what the fuck is going on, because it's extremely complicated and very hard to understand. Here's everybody around us. These are the people who are bringing you the Stupid Show, with basically 5 Apple Mac laptops and a few cables, all sponsored by our lovely sponsors. Thanks again for sponsoring us. So depending on who you believe, either 200 people or 500,000 people watched the Stupid Show last night. I'm going to go with a higher figure myself. And thank you very much for all your tweets and your emails and everything. If you would like to tweet us, that would be fantastic. We'd love to hear from you. The tag is Stupid Show, and the email I've completely forgotten, but I'm sure you can find it on the webpage. So we had a lot of comments, but the predominant comment was that I speak far too fast, and for that I can only apologise and say there's not much time left with climate change, and so if anything we've got to speed up. So just fast forward, just slow-mo me or something if you can't understand. The other thing everybody said is that we were slightly doing exactly what we're accusing the UN of doing, which is talking in complete gobbledygook. So we've decided to try and correct that by going back to the beginning and doing the history of the world in 1 minute by drawing. And you may have noticed, if you've been following the stupid saga, that we are very well designed. And I do not mean well designed fashion-wise, but logo and website-wise. And that's all thanks to this man, Tom Flannery, who's our in-house designer, and he's going to draw the history of the world, starting with the sun.
Right, the sun.
Right, it was a long time ago, the sun came, I don't know how it came, Big Bang probably. It was emitting energy, it was making energy, and the energy came to another planet which was called Earth. And on the Earth, that's so small, on the Earth...
It's much smaller than that in real life comparison to the sun,
okay.
Yeah.
So on the Earth then came plants.
Right, plants.
And plants started growing...
Hang on, wait, slow down, because if I can't keep up with you drawing, that means you're talking too fast.
Well said, Tom.
Okay.
Oh, they've got plant pots before they...
Yeah.
Okay, we don't know who designed them, but that's okay. The creator. Anyway, plants came. Plants came and they take the CO2 out of the atmosphere and use the energy of the sun and grow. And by doing that, the carbon goes into them, in their plants, in their leaves and their branches and what have you, because also trees are doing this. And then millions of years go past. Oh no, animals evolve.
Okay, hang on.
Animals eat the plants, and then everybody dies. Animals, sheep, sheep are coming a little bit early in the history of evolution,
Right,
but that's
they're
okay.
very big as well.
Then everybody dies, plants die, animals die, and then over millions of years they decompose, what have you, and turn into fossil fuels, oil, coal, gas. And that's basically the energy that did originally come from the sun going in there, and that is stored in a very, very dense way. Then humans evolve.
Uh-oh.
Humans evolving.
This sounds bad.
Not a good moment for the planet. Humans evolved, and after some time they discovered this great thing called fossil fuels, and they realized that they could do all sorts of things with it. For example, drive around, play loud music, and have iPods. And so, but every time they did that, they were using up the fossil fuels and releasing that carbon that was from the plants back into the atmosphere, and that went up into the atmosphere, and that's called greenhouse gases. And it's not just carbon dioxide, it's other ones like methane, but carbon dioxide is the most interesting for a reason I don't know. And they basically make a blanket around the whole Earth.
It's a blanket.
There's the blanket. And so the sun's energy that's still coming to the Earth, it used to just bounce off basically, and now it can't because it gets trapped by the blanket.
Okay, a bit like this.
A bit like that.
Bounce in. Okay.
And that, my friends, is global warming. And you see, the thing is that's so bad is that humans, all that energy that was coming from the sun, because we love fossil fuels so much and we love going on holiday, we are using 400 years worth of sunlight every single year. And that's what has made the whole thing out of balance.
400 years of sunlight for 1 year. Okay.
Okay, so can you draw a thermometer in that?
Yeah.
In the Earth's mouth?
Okay.
Great. So all of this means that the Earth is warming up, and that's why it's got a temperature, and that's why it's got a thermometer.
Cool.
Great, next drawing. Now we need a thermometer.
Okay.
Now begin.
I'm good at this.
Okay, so before we start getting involved, we're going to call the temperature of the whole Earth naught. Am I doing it? Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay, naught. No, you're going to have to do it.
Okay.
That's before we got involved, but before we started burning fossil fuels during the Industrial Revolution.
Okay. About 1850?
Knowledgeable. And then we are now at 2009, and we're at 0.7 degrees.
Okay. 0.7, 0.7, and 2009?
2009.
Okay, that's where we are now.
Okay,
COP50.
so
Yeah.
you've got to colour this in up to here.
Okay.
There you go. And the big number that everybody always talks about, I'm sure you've heard it, is 2 degrees.
Okay.
Chuck 2 degrees on there. We're not there yet.
2.
And the reason that 2 degrees is so important is that is because where we enter runaway climate change.
Okay.
And runaway climate change is basically where it becomes out of our hands. And all the plants and the oceans and stuff that were absorbing carbon dioxide start emitting it instead. And so as they emit more carbon dioxide, then more temperature, more carbon dioxide. 2 goes to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6 degrees. Luckily, we have a guy here who you may remember from last night called Mark Linus, who written a book called 6 Degrees. So he can tell us, Mark, what happens, what climate impacts do we see at 0 degrees? Trick question.
0 degrees actually is 14, which is the average temperature of the planet in pre-industrial times, right? I need to clarify that because it wasn't freezing, otherwise the whole thing would be covered in ice. Now, at pre-industrial temperatures, we had a climate which was under natural circumstances and fluctuated. We had a medieval warming period and we had previous temperature changes during the Holocene and all these things which people aren't going to understand. But the point is that the climate works within its own boundaries, okay?
Yeah.
So we had the ice ages, we had the interglacials. Those were natural changes forced by changes in the Earth's orbit around the Sun. Now what we're doing now is we're going into an entirely unnatural geological period. The first one named after any species of life. This is called the Anthropocene because this is actually named after us.
Or the age of stupid.
Or the age of stupid, if you like. So what we've done now is force the planet outside its natural boundaries of carbon dioxide concentrations. They're the key thermostat which determines the temperature of the planet, you see.
Trying to make it all
So if we I'm trying to simplify this for you, Fanny, so you don't get it wrong again. And if we go over this 2 degree limit, which is what many of the countries have signed up for.
Okay, Mark, so thanks for that complication.
Okay, so
Keep to the script, Mark. So what happens in terms of climate impacts? At climate impacts, what would happen if we got to 1 degree?
Well, we've only got 0.3 to go, right, if we get to 1 degree. That's still a relatively safe area. So somewhere between 1 and 2, we lose the world's coral reefs. We see the oceans increasingly turning to acid. We see the polar ice caps melting down sufficiently to give us accelerated sea level rise, so we lose the atoll nations, the low-lying countries who are fighting desperately here to keep their heads above water.
2 degrees?
If we go above 2 degrees, then we're potentially into some of these positive feedbacks. So we could see more carbon dioxide coming out of the Amazon. If the Amazon burns down, we could see methane coming out of the melting Siberian permafrost, which is going to give an extra boost to global warming.
3 degrees.
All right, after 3 degrees, things are really hotting up, and as I say, these positive feedbacks can begin to accelerate. I mean, we'd lose all of the Arctic ice cap, so all of the sea ice in the Arctic disappears. That makes all of that area, which is reflective, turns into blue-coloured ocean, and that's then absorbing more of the solar radiation. So
4 degrees.
This is how fast it could happen. You know?
It's probably worth saying at this point that 4 degrees in the global average is actually 8 degrees in some parts of the world because the land warms faster than the ocean. So 4 degrees is 8 degrees over much of Europe, North America, the Arctic, for example.
I mean, what, for example, Africa, is it still habitable at 4 degrees?
Most of it not, no.
Continental Europe?
Well, southern Europe would be particularly hard hit at 4 degrees. I mean, it would mostly be desert for certainly the northern part of the Mediterranean, lose most of its water. You need to introduce Richard, by the way. He has a
second. 5 degrees.
Oh, really? It's anyone's guess, isn't it, when you get to 5 degrees? I mean...
Yeah. So there's big changes, but 5 degrees is perfectly plausible if we don't take any action. If we follow business as usual emissions, we will get to 5 degrees by the end of the century at high emissions.